I just knew I want to sit across the table from families and help them have good conversations around money and actually use it to its best ability to serve the purpose of their life.
Welcome to Beyond the Rut, the podcast about helping you pursue and achieve your dreams without compromising your faith, your family, or your health. I'm your host, Jerry Dugan, and in just a moment, we're going to be joined by financial planner Jim Crider. Jim is the founder of the website intentionallivingfp.com, and he helps families have that important conversation to get their money to create the lives they wish to have. So it's all about intentionally living through your finances. So we're going to talk about some of the mindset shifts that need to happen, the visualization that you need to have, and what can you do on a practical level to start having your money work for you to live intentionally, to fulfill those dreams you've got. Man, that's a mouthful. So sit back and relax, unless you are swinging a golf club against a baseball pitcher, and in that case, you got to concentrate, but keep listening to us. I don't know if anybody's ever actually done that, but if you are, good luck and Godspeed. Here we go. All right. Hey, Jim, how are you doing?
Doing great. How are you doing this evening?
Doing well. And glad to be talking with a fellow Texan. You're down there in New Braunfels. I'm up here in Dallas, which actually turned out to be your hometown. So that's really cool. I'm glad we got to catch up before we hit record.
Yeah, I'm glad you know how to say New Braunfels.
Oh, yeah.
Most Texans even don't know how to pronounce it. So glad to hear that.
The one that got me was, San Antonio is just surrounded by city names that are a challenge because of the German heritage. So like Bernie is another one. Bear County, I remember seeing that for the first time. I was like, Bexar. And my wife looked at me like I was stupid. I'm like, what? Bexar. She goes, it's Bear. I'm like, what's wrong with you guys down here? So, because I'm imported from California. So that's.
For the longest time, when people would say Bear County, I didn't know that they were talking about Bexar County. I didn't know. I didn't know they were the same thing.
And you grew up around here.
Yep.
Awesome. I'm glad to have you on right now. And we got connected through Interview Valet. And so I don't know if you've met Tom and Karen Schwab yet, but they're really neat people. And I know Tom and I are on a quest to get Renee Zellweger on this show, but we know it's never going to happen. But yeah, just
what? No, I love Tom. He's phenomenal.
But why we do have you on here is you are a financial planner, and a big part of this show is helping men in their 30s and 40s. They're married, they've got children, but they feel stuck. And, they've got a great corporate job, they've got a car, they got the house, they got everything that they're supposed to have. But deep down inside, they just feel like they're stuck in a rut. They're asking themselves that question, like, is this all there is? They're probably stuck in debt. Maybe they're stuck in their career. Maybe their marriage has flatlined for a while. And so when we heard about you and your business as a financial planner, and just the way you go about your business, I was like, that's very much aligned with the message here. So even though we're going to have you talk about finances and financial planning and the work that you do, I mean, it does have an impact on all those other areas. So I'm excited to have you on here.
You hit it round the head. There's technical side of financial planning. There's estate and taxes and investments and cash flow and all that stuff. But ultimately, your money is nothing more than a tool and a resource that's there to help you live the life you want to live. And those things, the good planning, it simply supports and empowers you to actually do what's important to you in your life, to help you become who you want to be and help you achieve the things that are actually important to you. And that's why, I can get real nerdy on the technical side of planning. Like I fall asleep a lot of nights thinking and reading about taxes and estate and investments. But like the only reason that excites me is because thinking about people like you described, men in their 30s and 40s who are trying to figure out there's got to be something more, and actually helping people understand what that is and then align their money, their resources, their time, all these things actually with that. That way they can actually fully live into who they're supposed to be and what they want in life. So, gosh, that stuff gets me going.
Awesome. I mean, how have you seen where money or the lack thereof was a crutch for somebody, like not to be able to do what they wanted to do? It's kind of a dumb question, but still, I think there's an answer there.
No, that can go so many ways. One, not having enough money. Of course, there's a place of like, literally you are not able to do something you want because you don't have enough money. And that could be like the obvious thing is like, I can't afford a house in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, because I don't have $6 million of excess money to throw at a house. But there's other things like, I wish I had the ability to leave my corporate job and start my passion business that I've been wanting to do for years and years, but I can't afford to do that. I have too many things depending on me and this income to be able to do it. And I need more to be able to do that. Or at least I think I need more. Or it could go the other way around. Like I've worked with a lot of people who make phenomenal income, but they have golden handcuffs. Like I had a client I work with a client that's an executive at a major company, makes great money. They're in their mid 30s. And in our first meeting, she just broke down crying. And
wow.
one, I found out that the husband and wife were on the edge of the divorce, and they just constantly fight about money, but it's not money itself. It's life that they are not satisfied with. And anyways, after talking for an extensive period of time, she just came out and said, the last time I was truly happy in what I was doing in my life was in college, because at that point I was able just to be a barista and I wasn't slave to this job that I hate. But right now I make way too much money to leave this thing. I can't walk away. I'm dependent on it. And they have me in golden handcuffs. So yeah, like being dependent or using money as a crutch can go both ways. So yeah, it's not a matter of necessarily having too much or not enough, but rather is your mentality and are your desires and your life goals and who you want to be, is it actually aligned with your money itself? And that's the problem. Most people don't even stop to understand like what's important to me in life. And then how can my money just support that rather than like coasting through and just having money to go and like, I don't know, just the quid pro quo do things.
The phrase golden handcuffs, I hadn't heard that in a long time. That is in a sense a trap. I mean, from the example you were sharing though, like what was it that made her feel trapped in those golden handcuffs? Like why couldn't she leave?
So specifically for her, it was just, I'm making $900,000 a year in my corporate job. I can keep doing that indefinitely and be very well off. And that's hard to walk away from.
Yeah.
So for her, like, gosh, we created plans like, okay, you like the money, but how much money, where's the diminishing return? So we established it's at this point and you'll be able to reach that point when you turn 45. So that we created a plan around that. Our plan was at 45, you'll be able to quit your job and go sling lattes for 10 hours a week if you want. And man, that relit a flame inside of her where it was like, oh, I'm not just aimlessly going through life. Yeah, making a lot of money, but like, I'm not satisfied. So that was for her specifically. I worked with other people. When I first got into personal finance and got into an advisory role, I worked for a time specifically advising physicians on retirement planning. So I worked with a lot of really high income people that frankly, a lot of these people were living relatively broke. They just were broke with nicer toys. And I had a lot of conversations with people who, again, were living just stressed out and everything looked great on the outside, but they were in a rut. They were burdened, they were hurting, and they were not satisfied because their cash flow was phenomenal and they bought a lot of great toys, but they couldn't walk away from the cash flow because they didn't have a balance sheet to actually sustain that lifestyle.
Yeah.
So they dug themselves into that hole.
Wow. Yeah. And that's something that we hear often, like, myself and the founder of the show, Brandon, like we'd run into guys like that all the time that's where they felt trapped. Like they made great money. They had the good job. And, somebody else who isn't making great money is looking at them like, what's wrong with you, man? I would love to have your job. I'd love to have your income. And, there's that trap that folks have fallen into. Like they buy the toys, the money's just too good to walk away from. And, it sounds almost like there's a misalignment with the job itself and who they are at the core. Is that something you come across a lot? Oh,
but yeah, regularly. One, I want to touch on a statistic that's really interesting. Mm-hmm. And I don't know it like this. Don't quote me on this, the numbers hard and fast. But years ago, I remember, I remember learning a few years ago that there was a large group of people polled of all incomes, like along like from poverty level to you're doing really, really well. And they went and surveyed these people and said, how much money would you need to make in order to be satisfied with your income? And it was across the board, whether you're making $30,000 a year to support a family of 5 up to making several $100,000 a year to support a family. Across the board, everyone said they needed, if they were making about 20% more, then they'd be happy.
Oh, wow.
At 20% more at 30,000, obviously that's a lot less than 20% more at 500,000, but that was it. It's like, gosh, once I reach here, once I'm a little bit further than where I am, then I'll be satisfied, rather than here's what I want and how can I achieve that?
Yeah.
So yes, that's something that I see a lot. And yeah, do I see people who are dissatisfied in their work or where they're at? Yeah, regularly. We go through school, and then if you go to college or military or just right into work, and then suddenly you go from being a kid to an adult to like, you better have your stuff together because now you're taking care of people. And if, again, going back earlier, if you don't have your financial ducks in a row, like you got to just keep performing. Like you don't have the wiggle room to be able to go and pivot and move careers and like switch to something you enjoy more. Like you got to keep working and grinding because like you got a family depending on you, whatever it looks like. Or maybe like, this is all I know, so therefore this is what I'll do. Rather than just having the freedom and the optionality to say like, you know what, I want to go pursue this because I'm passionate about it. And the sad thing is, most of the time when you're actually doing work that you enjoy and you're passionate about, or people who like retire early and they just go do a passion project, they're usually phenomenally successful in that area because their passion and their skill sets are finally aligned and they're able to tap into something they haven't before.
Yeah. And the money, the income is already covered by something else in a sense. Yeah. Love that. So you obviously have a lot of passion in this. You got a lot of knowledge. I mean, you just said a moment ago, you love reading up on tax laws and tax codes and changes in like the financial structure and everything. So what inspired you to dive into finances and the world of personal finance?
It started quite a few years back. I was working jobs. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was working in sales and I'm a horrible salesman, absolutely horrible. I was working in sales because I didn't know what else I had to do. Anyways, I ended up leaving a job very suddenly. I found out my boss was doing some really bad stuff and I confronted him and I quit on the spot. And that led to about 7 months of unemployment, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Unfortunately, that was before we had kids. My wife was working, but 7 months of trying to figure out what on earth I want to do and not having the income we needed led to like personal anguish. Like, my gosh, what am I actually passionate about? What am I good at in life? Surely there's something I'm good at. And then financial stress started to take hold. And that got me thinking about financial stress, how it's the number one cause of divorce in the US. And it's one of the top causes of suicide. And I decided then that I want to be able to help families have healthy conversations about their money and actually use their money for what's important to them in life. And if I can help people do that, that would be an amazing way to spend my career. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what a financial planner was or what a CFP is or these credentials and tests and stuff. I just knew I want to sit across the table from families and help them have good conversations around money and actually use it to its best ability to serve the purpose of their life. So I dove in. A friend of mine helped me get a job and it was a boring job. I answered phones to help people reset their password on the 401k. But from day one, I knew, like I approached the VP that was at the site and said, how do I get here? He said, oh, well, you got to take all these tests and start in this entry role. And, I grinded in that. It was so simple. Like I love studying this stuff. So I went role to role and eventually I got my, what's called a CFP or certified financial planner, which is a pretty big, gruesome test. And the moment as soon as I finished passing that, I passed that test, I just reread my books for fun because I just wanted to if I can help people do this more efficiently, that allows them to do more things in their life they want. And then that led me, I left that firm and I went to another firm and helped them help clients with traditional retirement planning. And then earlier this year, for years now, I've been thinking about this, but earlier this year, I went ahead and I started my own thing where I work specifically with young families who want to achieve early financial independence. So they have more time freedom to spend with the people they love and the ability to pursue the things they're actually passionate about. So that's what I do.
So many things in that story in such a short time that you told it. Things like the passion that drove you. Like, it wasn't just, I want to make a ton of money. I'm going to do this. And off you went. Like, there was a passion in there to help other families get that financial freedom, to not be burdened by the stress of that money, like saving marriages, saving lives. Like, I don't think I've met any other financial planner who took that approach to this field. And there's those who were like, I want you to be able to retire and live the life you always wanted to live, but to like bring it down to, I'm helping families save their marriages, and save lives. Like you're reducing suicide. That just blows my mind right there in and of itself. So from there, I mean, we've already heard about one of your clients who was probably still in her 30s, making great money, $900,000. And now listeners are like all mad, like, well, if she doesn't like it, I'll take that job. But that's not the point, guys. Take us through, I guess, sort of a high level process that you take your clients through to help them discover what it is they want to do in life and how they want to align their money up with that.
Yeah, it's how I approach this is it is foundational that I understand truly what is important to these people, what they want their life to look like, who they want to be. I want them to know these things. Most people don't have the time or make the time for true introspection to say, yeah, a lot of people think we have goals like, oh, I'd love to do this one day. Well, why? Well, because it'll allow me to do this. But why is that important? And if you keep asking that, you'll get down to the core things of what's important to you in life. And that's what I want to know. I want my clients to know it. And I want each spouse to know it about each other. And then I want to know it. So I know at their core what they value. So that's where I start with my clients, understanding their values, the underlying why in their life. Those things don't really tend to change very often, those whys. So we start with that. Okay. And then that goes into establishing goals. Goals are important. There's a lot of science to show that writing down goals helps people actually achieve their goals. And there's a lot of science there, but we don't start with that because goals change. That's completely fine. Like I bet, Jerry, that your goals today are a lot different than they were 5 years ago. And they'll probably they'll be different 5 years from now than they are today. And that's totally fine. But goals, they do serve a purpose of goals help inform the best next step to take. So again, we start with values because those don't really tend to change very often. And then we go to goals. So like a value could be, let's say we did start with goals. Oh, I want to be able to retire early, like when I'm 40. Why? I don't know. It'd be great to have that free time. What would you do that free time? I would spend time with my kids. Oh, you don't want retirement. You want time with your kids. Okay, so that's what's important to you is family time. And then a goal is retirement by the time you're 40 or whatever that is. Okay, and 40 is probably going to change eventually, but that's the goal. And then from there, once we've established the goals, we understand the decisions that we're going to have to make. Everything in life requires decisions. There's always trade-offs. There's always opportunity costs. Whether we do it purposefully and intentionally or just passively, we're giving up something to go for something else. Okay, so we understand what trade-offs and decisions are going to have to be made. And then finally, we take action. And how do we actually ultimately align the actions, the decisions, the goals, and the values so we can most efficiently and effectively do what's important to you in life? And that's what we do. And of course, we start off with understanding that foundationally, and then things change. So we meet on a regular basis to understand like the cadence of your life. And as things change and as new opportunities arise, and then maybe something bad happens, whatever it is, how do we actually move in real time to align where you are in life right now with where you want to be and who you want to be?
Nice. Now, do they eventually wind up in like a cookie cutter, like same type of plan for everybody, or does it vary? Because it sounds like if we're basing it on their values, their why, and their goals, that's going to cause a lot of variation in what the ultimate plan is. Yeah,
no, it definitely varies. It helps. So again, I work specifically with young families who want to be able to have early financial independence. That helps me not have to have these mental gymnastics. Like at previous firms, I was going from a conversation with a 27-year-old single person to a married couple who's 68 trying to figure out Social Security distributions. That's really tough to move from one to one and stay actually good at something. Like there's a reason like general practitioners aren't going to do heart surgery. You go to your general practitioner to understand, hey, what's sort of going wrong? They say, hey, there's probably an heart issue. Let's go to this guy. Like he's good at that. I'm not going to go to a knee surgeon to get my heart looked at. I'm not going to go to. So that's where it does help having a niche focus. But yeah, everyone's different. Like everyone in life everyone has a once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to look different. So yeah, fully understanding what's important to them. That's foundational. And then yes, like it may sound like this because I emphasize the life and the touchy-feely so much, but yeah, I better be, and whoever your financial planner is, better be really sharp on the technical side of things as well, because those technical things are there to support your life. And yeah, maybe one client it might be really important that we go ahead and accelerate their taxes into, this year because they're starting a business and cash flow is not there. Maybe another client, we need to go ahead and have these types of investments set up because they're trying to buy this new house or having kids. So things can look a lot different, obviously. But yeah, does that answer your question?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. Okay. And then the next one I was thinking of is, you mentioned, yes, it's important that your financial planner is in touch with or understands your why, your values, but they also have to be savvy on those technical skills. What are some of the things that the general public should be aware of as they go look for a financial planner on the technical side? What are the big, oh no, got to get away versus, all right, this person could take care of me?
Yeah, I guess base understanding is there's a really big difference between a financial planner and a salesman who just happens to sell a financial product. So if you can go into a conversation with a finance person knowing that, that's really good.
Yeah.
And then, as far as technical competencies, I'm a CFP certified financial planner. I advocate, I would not send my parents to a non-CFP. So that's pretty foundational. I personally advocate for going to someone who would specialize in some area of what you're looking for. So like a mentor of mine, his practice only works with dentist practice owners because he knows everything that a dentist practice owner is going to come up with on how to finance a piece of equipment to working off student loan debt for dentists. So yeah, I would personally advocate for working with someone who actually works with people regularly who are like you. Probably like a CFP, maybe a CPA. Those are like the core, they're technically smart in this area.
Okay.
And yeah, obviously someone you just trust and is actually genuinely curious in you. That's important because again, it's about your life ultimately. And that you want to make sure that they're there to help fully understand and know who you are. And then, bridge the gap on the technical side of things as well.
Yeah. So the certifications are a big giveaway, the CFP, CPA type of certifications. You mentioned telling the difference between somebody who's really trying to advise you versus trying to sell a product. What's kind of the giveaway there? Because when I was younger, I ran into, I think, somebody who was really interested in just me buying a loan or getting a loan and then, getting some life insurance that cost way too much. And I felt like I was losing money as opposed to investing in the future. And eventually I got out of it and learned later on, oh, that was a good call. Totally by accident though. So somebody who's probably in their late 20s, early 30s, any age for that matter, how can they discern the difference between an advisor versus just somebody pitching products?
There's a few red flags or just things to look out for. Certifications, of course. You could ask, are you a fiduciary? That just means basically I have to do what's in your best interest. Unfortunately, there's firms out there that in certain conversations you are a fiduciary, but that's after you've sold them. So there's literally firms that you don't have to be a fiduciary to sell them a product, but once you've actually closed the sale, then you're a fiduciary. And it's that's pretty nuts. It's like selling someone a beater a car because it's going to give you the best commission. But once they're in it, you have to make sure they're safe. That's no good. Yeah. Hey, are you a fiduciary? How are you paid? Just ask that question. I know I guess that's sort of a millennial thing. We're probably not as afraid to ask as older generations are more of oh, we don't ask those questions. Millennials are pretty hey, we get to the point. So yeah, ask them, how are you paid? Do you get a commission off this product? Do you get paid based off of how much money I'm managing? What are your conflicts of interest? They should be able to tell you what those are and not be, intimidated by that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I noticed on your website, you've got your fee structure up there and you break it down into categories and everything.
Yeah. I'm not trying to hide anything. I want to let you know, here's what I can do. And I only want to work with people I can actually bring value to. And I want to make it known if I can't bring value for whatever reason, I'll tell you. I'm perfect. Go do it on your own or go to this other person who can do it better. So heck, I just sent away a client that would have brought in several tens of thousands of dollars a year of income to me. I sent them to another advisor who specializes on retirement planning because I would not be the best fit because I don't work with people who are in their 60s and 70s now. So if you could have someone say, hey, where do you fit in this role? Just look for good answer there.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. And there's something that just came out of you right now that is worth pointing out as well. Like the importance of knowing your values, your why, who you're serving, and just having that independence as well as financial independence to be able to say no to business, or like, like the couple you just talked about. Because I know a lot of folks are like, oh, you got to take every client you can get, just take them all. And they wind up doing poorly. And it's like, well, that person didn't line up with you. And that person was not a good fit for your business. You just saw the dollar signs. And so that was a little nuance I picked up on just out of you just now. I was like, here's a guy who knows who he is. He knows who he's serving. He knows why he's serving them. And then he also recognizes when a potential client is not a good fit, and then still takes care of them. Like, you didn't just say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Good luck. And then salute them on the way. You connected them with somebody else who could help them. So that the power of networking as well, I guess, pays off as you take your profession as a professional. I think that's very huge. Out of curiosity, what is the future like for the Crider family? I know you got 3 young boys. You guys are young yourselves. And I'm not saying I'm jealous of that full head of hair you got or anything like that. But sorry, my family picks on my big forehead all the time. They're like, Dad's getting bigger. I'm like, stop it, guys. But yeah, so anyway, on track, squirrels. What is the future like for the Crider family? Like, what's the Crider family dream?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah.
Okay. This is sort of answer your question. A few years ago, obviously I really like what I do. And my poor wife, her name's Kendra. Kendra has to hear about this stuff all the time. Like, I excitedly tell her about tax stuff or whatever, or client stories like, babe, I got to do this. And anyways, when she doesn't work any longer, she works plenty. She watches our 3 little kids, but she's no longer employed. But when she really wanted to be able to stay home with our kids. So her hearing how excited I was about my job, there was this gap. How can you be excited about what you do for work? I don't like what I do, and I wish I didn't have to do it. Yet you're like bouncing off the walls about this stuff every night. So one night we're having dinner, and she stops me and says, Jim, I don't understand why you like your job so much. And I just pause. I said, well, what do you think I do? Like, when you picture a financial planner, what do you think I'm doing there? And she said, well, I guess when I think of a financial planner, I picture an old white guy. And there's nothing wrong with being an old white guy. I hope I'm one day. If I'm not, something went really wrong.
That's a good plan.
Yeah, something went real bad there. I picture an old guy with a pinstripe suit and those big what are they called? Cufflinks, and a white collar, and all wood boardroom and big leather chairs. And we just sit there for like 2 hours, and he just interrogates me on how much money am I going to spend on utilities when I'm 73? And why am I spending so much on clothes right now? And what do I want to do with my investments and my analysis of this and that? And he gives me like a whole bunch of, then after this few hour long conversations, he gives me a 2-inch thick booklet of charts and graphs and formulas and rates of return and stuff that I have to pretend I understand, or else I'll look stupid. Then he tells me, hey, you may or may not be able to retire in 30 years. Come back next year, we'll do it again. She's like, gosh, that sounds really bad. Like, that sounds like a horrible client experience if I had to sit through that. And it sounds like a pretty boring job. I don't know how you get excited about that. So I just sort of sat back and was like, okay, that's what you think I do. I didn't say that, but I said, well, what if that sounds like a poor experience as a client? Describe to me, what would you actually want out of that? And she sat back and just thought for a minute. And she said, I wish that you and I had someone that we could go to together and just talk to about what we want our life to look like. And then obviously, how do we avoid the things we don't want to have happen, or at least mitigate them as much as possible? But like, how would we actually do these things? Is it possible for me to actually stay at home with the kids, or do I have to work? Would it be possible for you to actually start your own business one day? When can we not have to work altogether? Can we send the kids to private school or public school or homeschool? What's the differences here? And saving, how do we save for college? And can we please one day get a house in the mountains? All these things. Like, I wish we had someone we could talk to about it, and they were just a voice and a sounding board, and actually give us good advice and help us navigate and guide us along the way. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty good. And she said, yeah, but that sounds like it's too much about life. Like, I never mentioned numbers and mutual funds in that. That sounds more like a life planner. And I got the biggest grin. And I said, I was like, babe, that's exactly what I do. Like, that is my job. So long story short, that's what I want. Like, I'm 31. We have 3 boys, a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 5-month-old. I work with people pretty much like me. If I won the Powerball today, I keep doing this. I love it. But by the time I'm 45, I want the optionality to say, okay, I'm done. Or I'll hang on to a handful of clients and the rest I'll transition to another advisor I really trust. And at that point, get a house in Jackson Hole or Telluride, or maybe before then, and just be able to have the summer and fall out of the Texas heat and just go hiking. Our family, we love being outdoors. I'm actually next week, I'm going backpacking for a week in Colorado. So yeah, that's the Crider family. It's currently just a bunch of hooligan boys talking about dinosaurs and monster trucks. But yeah, just being able to take time and enjoy those moments and memories before they're out of our house, and be able to curate moments and memories when they're grown up and have their families of their own.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, being 45 myself, and we were sharing before we hit record, my son is out of the house for the past 2 years. My daughter just graduated high school. And the one thing my wife and I say over and over again is that went by way too quickly. When you're the young parent and you've got the young children, you hear all those folks, all the old people, I'm doing air quotes, all the old people saying, oh, cherish them now because they grew up so quickly. And in the back of your head, like you smile, oh, thank you. But in the back of your head, you're like, yeah, whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, it's done. And you're like, holy moly, like they were right. It went by so quickly. Wait, didn't they just start middle school? What happened? Like we're paying for a high school graduation gown and college tuition. Oh my gosh. It really does fly by. And I know from also personal experience, while I hadn't achieved financial independence quite yet, I did at least make some choices while I was a younger parent that I would be there for my kids. I would make being at school as a volunteer for them a priority. I became a realtor for a few years just so I could work from home, just so I could be with my kids. And it was a great idea until this is 2006. So yeah, 2007 came along. Who would have thunk? But I put up with that until about 2010, and then finally, realized being a realtor didn't line up with my passions, and found a job that just has been a springboard ever since. But I, to this day, still don't regret taking those 5 years to be there for my kids. And very important to know your values and what matters most to you. And, I think I heard on an interview you had done somewhere else that you were talking to somebody in their 50s, or where you got this guy in his 50s, he's amassed this amount of money. But the thing that is missing is those moments with his family. And like, he doesn't know his kids. He's disconnected. It's like that pursuit of money without a why led to this future without any connectedness and without any hope and without any purpose. And that is sad. That's tragic.
Yeah. That's a dangerous thing. Again, that's where like not truly understanding the thing that's driving you. If you're not doing that, you're very apt and prone to be very successful in something that's not even important to you.
Yeah.
And gosh, you don't want that. You don't want to spend energy and years and your kids' childhoods pursuing something that's not important to you. And Jerry, like, it sounds like, maybe being a real estate agent in 2007 through 2009 was financially difficult, but like, hey, those are years and time with your kids you'll never get back.
Yeah.
So I doubt you regret that. And that's, gosh, even what I do, like, I don't have a boss to answer to. So I purposely, like, for me, I don't schedule meetings before 9 a.m. because I'm there. Like, we have a young one that doesn't sleep. So the two older kids, I'm there in the morning to get them up and changed and fed and play dinosaurs and monster trucks before I take meetings. And that's so amazing. I get to do that. And it's our, going back how fast it goes. I have a good friend that he always reminds me of this, the days are long, but the years, or the days go by long, but the years go by quick.
Yeah.
And I currently joke around with Kendra how I'm so excited to be an empty nester, but I know it's going to go fast. Atticus, our 3-year-old, he just started like a summer school thing for his first time. So yesterday was his first day. And so the night before last, Kendra and I are sitting there making a PB&J sandwich for him. I was like, oh my gosh, like I've eaten tens of thousands of PB&Js. And I remember making these for myself, and my mom making them for me as a kid. And here I am making a PB&J for my little boy. Like, oh man, oh my goodness.
Circle of life right there. Cute, Rafiki holding up Simba. It is cool though. Like when you have that moment where you're now in your parents' shoes 20 some odd years later, and you're like, oh wow, or later, almost 30 years later, and you're like, that's insane. Yeah. Oh man. Now, before we go, how can people connect with you? So they want to check out more about your services, maybe reach out to you to be their financial planner, or at least get that conversation going. Where can they go?
Yeah. So my website is intentionallivingfp.com. So intentional living FP as in financialplanning.com. I'll create, do you have show notes that people can go to or anything? Okay. So I'll create a landing page specifically for listeners. It'll be intentionallivingfp.com / I guess we can do the show name. So Beyond the Rut. So I'll just have that there, and then a landing page where you can go. And if you want, just put 15 minutes on my calendar. If you want to talk about like more detail about what I do, or heck, if you just have a one-off question, like my 401k says this, what does that mean? I'll be more than happy to spend 15 minutes, just answer a question like that. Yeah. And then gosh, if you don't want to hop on Zoom or the phone with me, that's too intimidating. I'll also, on that landing page, I'll have a resource you can get. They'll just basically allow you to look through a little bit more detail, like this premise of actually aligning your life and your money. So you can take a look at that and just get a better understanding what that looks like.
Awesome. And before we head out, one final word of wisdom for those listening.
Gosh, understand what is actually important to you. I know this is like said so many times in this conversation. If you're single, figure it out. And don't stop at, I want this. Keep peeling those layers back. Why? Why is this important to me? Because of this. Okay, but why is that important? Until you get down to the core thing, know it. And then if you're married, do that with your spouse. Go together and fully go through and know and be known what's important to you, and then know and be known to each other. And that will allow you, like, again, money is the number one cause of divorce, but it's not money itself. Money is just a way of empowering what's important to you. And that's why there's just so many fights. It's because I want this and I want that. Heck, half the time, I bet you want the same thing. You're just coming at it from different ways. So allow each other to actually be vulnerable. I want this. And be vulnerable with yourself if you're single. Like, gosh, this is truly what I want. And that will allow you to, that will empower so much more in your life and allow you to what you're actually doing to actually not go to waste, but be spent on what's important to you. So I know that was a tangent, but that's what I offer.
Perfect. That was awesome, Jim. I'm glad we were able to work out a time to get on this Zoom call together. And it's been a great conversation, and I'm confident this was valuable to those listening right now. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Now, Jim and I just talked about for the last 30 minutes about some mindset shifts that really make a difference to open yourself up for wealth and taking control of your finances so you can live intentionally and start pursuing and achieving those dreams. Now, the best way you can pay us back is to share this with somebody you know would find a lot of value in this episode. So, however you're listening to us right now, hit that share button and send us off to somebody who will also find as much value in this conversation as you did. You also should check out the show notes at beyondtherut.com/278. There you'll find links to other episodes on the same type of topic, but also you can find a link that'll take you to the free giveaway that Jim offered up at the end of our conversation. So again, that's beyondtherut.com/278. Now, I'm glad you joined us this week and look forward to joining you again next week. But until then, go live life beyond the rut. Take care.
Now, I'm so grateful that you listen to this show on a regular basis, and some folks like to show their gratitude in a monetary way. Well, now you can show that by going to beyondtherut.com/coffee, and you could buy me a cup of coffee. So whether it's 1 cup, 3 cups, or 5 cups, go ahead and go to beyondtherut.com/coffee. That'll take you over to the website for buy me a cup of coffee, and go ahead and just do that. Now, I love coffee. I usually drink it black if I'm fasting,
But I'll also drop in some heavy whipping cream, maybe a little bit of sugar, and that's about it. So, and if you know me in person, I'm pretty darn hyper. And some of that is fueled by coffee. But what I'm going to do with the proceeds from what you give is put it into the growth of this show. So maintaining the hosting sites, the microphones, the equipment, doing upgrades, expanding this so it has a greater reach for the audience and for you. That's what we're going to do with this dough. So there you go. BeyondTheRut.com/coffee. Buy me a cup of coffee, and I'll be so grateful for that, and I'll put it to great use. All right. Now, until then, keep living life beyond the rut. Take care.